I'm Admiral, and there are two things you should know about me. The first is that I don't like Nuzlocking. I did it back when I was streaming regularly, and it's just not for me. The second thing is that, if nothing else, I'm a man of the people, and that's why today, because exactly one person asked, I'll be doing a monotype Nuzlocke of Pokemon FireRed. Or in this case, Pokemon FlyerRed. In case that pun didn't clue you in, or the title of the video for that matter, the star of this Nuzlocke will be the humble flying type. With a surprisingly balanced average stat total, decent offensive power, and fairly solid defenses, flying truly is one of the types of all time. However, it's also one of the most common secondary typings in the game, which means we'll have no shortage of encounters. That includes some excellent guaranteed picks, like the fast-flying fossil Aerodactyl, the ferocious floating fish, Gyarados, and the pioneer pseudo-legendary, Dragonite. For the purposes of this Nuzlocke, I'll be restricting myself to flying-type Pokemon and any Pokemon that evolve into flying types at the end of their species line. For those of you that may not be familiar with Nuzlockes, I'll go ahead and put the rules on screen now. The big ones to know are that I can only catch the first Pokemon I encounter on each route, and if a Pokemon faints, it's in the box forever. I'll also be using the Species Clause, which essentially means that I can only catch one Pokemon from each evolutionary line. I like using it since it basically forces team diversity. The last thing to note is that I'll be respecting, but not strictly observing, hardcore Nuzlocke rules. What that means is that, while I'll try to avoid using items in battle and to abide by gym leader level caps, if there's a strategy that relies on a Pokemon being a little overleveled, I'm gonna let myself use it. The no items in battle thing doesn't apply too much since I only really use revives, which are banned by the nature of Nuzlockes anyway, but it's worth mentioning. With all of that out of the way, the only thing left to do is start the run. My journey begins in Pallet Town, where Professor Oak gives me my first Pokemon. Charmander is our first companion for the game, being the only starter to evolve into a flying type. I name him Cereal and face off against our rival, Ground. His Squirtle is no match for Cereal, so we win our first battle and are free to head to Viridian. From there, we get the package for Oak and head back to Pallet Town, receiving our Pokedex and Pokeballs. I immediately go to Route 1, catching a Pidgey that I nickname Egg. After that, I go to Viridian Forest, where I catch a Metapod, naming her Toast. I was really happy to catch Toast at first, since I could have sworn that Butterfree learned Absorb, but it turns out I was dead wrong. I have no idea why I thought that, but I did. On the plus side, I was wrong about something else, too. I thought Charmander learned Metal Claw upon evolving into Charmeleon, but Cereal actually learns at a level 13, meaning we have at least one super effective move for the gym before the level cap, so not all is lost. Plus, Toast's Confusions will still put a hefty dent into Brock's specially frail team. I get everyone to level 14 and start the battle. For the sake of transparency, I forgot to record my first attempt at this, which was deathless, but decided to reset and do it again, so hopefully it goes well the second time around. Brock leads with his Geodude, and I send out Toast. We nail the Geodude with a Confusion for just over half health, and he responds with a Tackle. Toast outspeeds again to finish it off, allowing us to learn Sleep Powder. Onix is out next, so we hit it with Sleep Powder, and then go for Confusion as he just sleeps. On the next turn, I switch to Cereal since I know Toast can't take a Rock Tomb. Cereal hits a Metal Claw, and Onix responds by nailing him with a Rock Tomb for just above half health. Unfortunately, I thought Onix would go for Tackle now since he outspeeds, so I stay in with Cereal, hoping to finish it off. But I end up being wrong. Cereal goes down to another Rock Tomb, and so I bring Toast back out to outspeed and end him with Confusion, winning the battle. That's easily one of the most frustrating things to happen to me since I started making Pokemon videos. From Deathless to down our starter, and all because I forgot to hit record. I definitely should have switched Cereal out for Egg, but I was so focused on not losing anyone that I didn't consider who I could afford to lose, and I got punished for it. Sacking Egg for a safer switch to Toast is just about always the correct move there. Or just, recording the first one so I don't have to do it a second time. Either way, it's a good learning experience, so all I can do about it now is hope that I don't do it again, while also accepting the fact that I absolutely will do it again. Fortunately, that win does open up some more of the map. Our first stop is Route 3, where I hunt for a Spearow. Unfortunately, Egg is just a bit too strong and one-shots it with a quick attack, which sucks. But that's not the end of the world, since there are plenty of other places to grab a Spearow. I head to the Pokemon Center outside of Mount Moon next, where I have just enough money to grab a Magikarp, who I name Bagel. Since the Pokemon Center is on Route 4, I decide that Magikarp counts as our encounter for that route, meaning that Spearow will have to wait just a bit longer. I traverse Mount Moon next, and this place is dangerous without Cereal. That's because there's a trainer here who's already using a Magnemite. Steel types are already pretty annoying to deal with, but they're even worse if they have stab electric moves and if I don't have a fire or ground type. You know, like I had 5 minutes ago. Luckily, that trainer isn't mandatory, so I just avoid him. I also grab a Zubat here, who I name Pancake. While I intend to use Pancake wherever she's needed, I also fully intend to sack her if I have to, because Golbat won't evolve in this game until you have the National Dex. No Crobat means that Zubat is by far our worst encounter. While we're in Mount Moon, Egg evolves into Pidgeotto, giving us a bit more firepower. I emerge from Mount Moon and mentally prepare myself to battle Misty and for the rival fight. With just 4 Pokemon, 2 of whom are basically useless until they evolve, this is going to be a pretty vicious section of the game. The good news is that with Misty's level cap of 21, Bagel the Magikarp should at least be able to evolve, but I'm not sure if we have enough wiggle room on our team to switch train up that many levels without passing the level cap, so we'll just have to see how it goes. I get pretty close to the level cap, so I decide to go ahead and battle ground now. Getting through Nugget Bridge is mandatory for the SSN ticket, so I can't avoid this fight or the ones after it, meaning I don't really have room to grind anymore. We start out with a Pidgeotto mirror match, which sees our rival spam Quick Attack as we spam Gust for 2 turns. On the 3rd turn, we outspeed to finish it off, so I'm not quite sure what he was planning to use. Next out is Rattata, who Egg cracks with 2 Gusts. 3rd out is Squirtle, and we do solid damage with Gust, but between Water Gun and damage from the first 2 Pokemon, I have to switch out to Toast. She's able to finish it off with 1 Confusion, so last out is Ground's Abra. It only knows Teleport, so I'm totally safe to bring in Bagel for some experience before bringing Toast back out to bring it down with a few Confusions, winning the battle. After that, I do some more leveling and manage to squeeze Bagel up to level 16, where he learns Tackle. And then I take a few weeks off, because, let's be honest, nobody, and I mean nobody, wakes up and looks forward to grinding a Magikarp. That, and I was out of town for a week. To put into perspective just how long I didn't touch this playthrough for, I stopped on June 20th. I did not boot this game up again until July 15th, and that's really only because the Goat Flag on HG posted the exact same Nuzlocke that day, helpfully reminding me that I should probably get around to finishing this run. So, after that almost month-long hiatus, I get back into it and evolve sweet, innocent Bagel into a vicious Gyarados. I head straight to the gym after that, leading Toast into Misty's Staryu. We outspeed to hit a Sleep Powder, and then start plugging away with Confusion. It does just under half of Staryu's HP, so it lives with a sliver after 2 hits. Misty heals, but Staryu keeps sleeping as we hit another set of Confusions to take it out. Misty Starmie a second, so I keep Toast in. Starmie outspeeds to hit a Water Pulse, but it doesn't confuse Toast, letting us put it to sleep with Sleep Powder. That gives me a safe switch to Bagel, whose new move, Bite, targets Starmie's secondary Psychic type. We're still slower, and only do about 1/3 of its HP per hit, so I definitely should have leveled Bagel up some more, but it doesn't matter, as Starmie sleeps long enough for us to take it down without issue, earning the 2nd badge. Now I need to start thinking about the 3rd gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. This fight is one of the reasons I'm allowing Pokemon that evolve into flying types. Charmeleon would have made this fight far easier, but I lost poor Cereal, so we're a bit stuck, especially since nobody on my team can learn Dig. I think I have a plan for him, but it's a bit risky. Toast the Butterfree should outspeed at level 25, which means that I can put his Raichu to sleep and keep him down while we whittle away with Confusion. The problem is that if Raichu wakes up, we might get screwed, but it's a risk that I have to take. Luckily, Shockwave should never one-shot Toast unless he gets a crit, so we can at least put him back to sleep. I go to leave Cerulean, but realize that I never actually finished the Nugget Bridge or the stuff with Bill, so I have to go do that first. The team is able to easily clear out the trainers on the way, so I free Bill from his Poké Prison and move on. The fellas and I jump the rocket trainer that stole the TM for Dig, meaning that our next stop is the SSN for the Cut 8 gem. There's also a rival fight here, but I don't expect it to be difficult. I end up being right, which means there's one last thing to do. I go to Route 11, where I finally catch a Spearow. Oatmeal joins the team, and then I catch a second Spearow, whose sole purpose in life is to be traded away. And so, dinner is exchanged for Farfetch'd. His nickname, Chiding, is awful, but I simply can't convince him to go by anything else, which is a bit of a shame. I get the team up to level 24 to match Raichu, and now it's game time. Unfortunately, this fight also didn't record because apparently I can't do the one thing that video making requires, that being gathering footage, so this time I'm going to just recreate it for you here. I learned my lesson from the Brock fight. Surge leads with Voltorb and I lead with Toast. My heart drops as I realize that I forgot to edge Toast to almost level 25, so I'm not sure we outspeed Raichu anymore, but it's too late to go back. I go ahead and put Voltorb to sleep, and then hit them twice with Confusion. Those confusions leave Voltorb in the red, which isn't great, but even worse is the fact that Voltorb wakes up and slaps Toast with the Shockwave for almost half of her health. Surge heals on the next turn, so we get another Confusion off for free, and then I put Voltorb back to sleep and take them down for good. Next out for Surge is Pikachu, who we once again put to sleep. Surge uses a full heal to wake Pikachu up as we hit it with Confusion for most of its HP, and then we put it back to sleep and finish it off. Last out is Raichu, and I realize that this is the end for poor Toast. Even though we do manage to outspeed, putting Raichu to sleep, Confusion does so little damage that all we can really do is rely on Toast to set up another team member for the kill. And so, with a heavy heart, we must bid farewell to little Toast. Raichu is pretty low at this point, so I bring in the only Pokemon that I think has a reliable chance to prevent a full wipe, Oatmeal. Fearo's impressive physical attack is the main reason I kept going for Spearow. A resisted peck does great damage, but leaves Raichu standing after we take a Thunder Wave, so Raichu will go first on the next turn. Oatmeal takes a Shockwave, and I can't help but cover my eyes and weep, knowing that I've spent 2 months not playing this game only to wipe to the 3rd gym leader. But then there's silence. Oatmeal the Fearow does not let out a final pathetic cry as he falls from the sky. No, Oatmeal remains aloft, and with 2 hits from Fury Attack, at last throws down his enemy and smites his ruin upon the mountainside. And that gets us the 3rd badge. As we exit the gym, I take a moment to examine the aftermath. With Toast down, we've lost a solid special attacker and the ability to put everyone in Kanto to sleep. Fortunately, the map is now completely open to us, so I take this time to run some errands. I head north to Cerulean, getting the bike on my way through town, and then go east towards the Rock Tunnel. Along the way, I get the TM for Aerial Ace and then push through Rock Tunnel itself. It's hard without Flash, but I manage and emerge in Lavender Town. We can't really do anything here yet, so I go straight west to the second underground path, emerging in Celadon. Celadon is a great spot because there are several things here that we need. First is Erica, the 4th gym leader. She uses grass types, so she'll be wildly easy, especially after we pick up the second thing we need, the Fly HM from a house just outside of town. We'll also need the Tea from the mansion, so we can open up Saffron and navigate the map with even more ease. The game corner has the last 2 items on the list. The Rocket Hideout lets us complete the Pokemon Tower in one run, and we can get another encounter from the prize pool. I have a choice here between Dratini and Scyther, which isn't really a choice at all. I don't even have a joke for this, I am very much taking Dratini. I get the required coins from the game corner, and then grab our newest team member, Waffle the Dratini. She won't really be doing much though, since Dratini is actually really bad. For the few of you at home who don't understand why I grabbed Dratini if it sucks, it's because Waffle will eventually evolve into the pseudo-legendary Dragonite, a Pokemon that is not only not bad, but could theoretically solo the game. I wouldn't know though, since I've never tried. After that, I head west and grab Fly, and then get the Tea to open the way to Saffron. With all of that done, now I have to actually play the game. First up is battling Erica, who should be pretty trivial since we're equipped with Pokemon that exclusively bully her grass types. She leads with Victory Bell and I send out Oatmeal. We outspeed to take it to yellow health with a single peck, which was a mistake since I meant to use Fly, and Victory Bell responds by missing a Stun Spore. Oatmeal's held Cherry Berry would have fixed that anyway, but it doesn't matter since we just finish it with another peck. Tangela is out next, and this time I actually choose the correct move, sending Oatmeal high into the sky as Tangela uses Engrade. On the next turn, Tangela goes down. Last up is Vileplume, and it's essentially a combination of the last 2 opponents. We take off as Vileplume goes for Sunspore, and then come down to one-shot, finishing the battle without taking any damage. That means my next task is clearing out the Rocket Hideout so I can do the Pokemon Tower, which should let me access the south of the map. While I'm clearing it out, I want to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to the channel. Studies have shown that subscribing can help prevent, and in some cases even reverse, balding and other forms of hair loss, so there's really no reason not to help out. Anyway, I beat up everyone inside and take the Silph Scope so I can head back to the Pokemon Tower now. Nothing of note happens at the tower. The rival fight was easy, and Team Rocket doesn't give me any trouble, so let's skip to the journey to Fuchsia. While I fight this Snorlax, I'll give you guys a fun Admiral fact. Anytime I see the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee versions of the Pokemon Tower cutscene with Cubone and Marowak, I cry uncontrollably. And that's all I'm going to say about that. After dealing with the incredibly sad girl outside of Lavender Town for the return TM, I head south. On my way to Fuchsia, I grab a Doduo and name him Bacon, rounding out our encounters for the time being. We're also entering into the stretch of the game where the gym order is more of a suggestion, which means that I'll be treating formal level caps as a suggestion too, because I don't really have the brainpower or, to be totally honest, any strong interest in managing all of that. As long as we're not ridiculously overleveled by the time we reach Blaine, I think we're okay. Next is the Safari Zone. Here I can get the Surf HM and the Warden's Teeth, which I can trade for Strength. Both are useful attacking moves that'll contribute to my victory over Koga. Since I don't have any Psychic-type moves to use for super effective damage, the best I can do is target each Pokemon's weaker defensive stat. The Weezing line lacks special defense, while Muck has lower physical defense. Since Bagel the Gyarados is our best mixed attacker right now, he should be able to do some great work with Surf in return. After that, I go ahead and grab the Old Amber from Pewter, and I'm really excited. Aerodactyl is a fantastic Pokemon, probably only second to Dragonite on the current team, but I never end up using it since I never go to Cinnabar before Blaine, which is pretty late in the game. However, in this playthrough, I'll be heading to Cinnabar as soon as I beat Koga and can use Surf outside of battle. To prepare for that, I get the team up to about level 42 and start the gym battle. During my training, I actually came up with a better strategy for Koga. At least I think I have one. It starts with me leading Chiding into his first coughing. I have Chiding use Swords Dance as coughing kits a Toxic. A Health Pechaberry cures the poisoning, so I use Swords Dance again. Toxic connects a second time, which is really unlucky since Toxic only became 100% accurate for poison types in Generation 4. That puts us on a timer, so on the next turn I go for Slash, taking down coughing. Muck is next, and a single Slash one-shots him too, so it's Koga's third coughing out next. Another Slash gets another one-shot, leaving Koga's Weezing as our final opponent. Sadly, this is where poor Chiding's hot streak ends. Slash leaves Weezing deep in the red, but not deep enough, as he survives to retaliate with a Sludge that wrests Chiding from the land of the living. Bagel comes in and finishes it with 2 Surfs, winning the battle for us. In hindsight, I should have led with Egg and blasted coughing with Sand Attack before trying to set up. There weren't any options available that didn't risk a valuable team member, but I absolutely could have given myself slightly more favorable RNG there. Either way, Chiding's sacrifice is not in vain. Now that we can Surf, I'll head straight to Cinnabar for the Fossil Lab. I arrive without issue, and Sausage the Aerodactyl joins the team, letting me fly right to Saffron next for Silphco and Sabrina. I'm happy to report that despite the presence of multiple Steel types for the first time in the run, Silphco was a total breeze, so I don't really have anything to say about it. I also somehow managed to keep my team under the level cap, which is kind of impressive given how much I've actually done. So I use a Rare Candy to get Oatmeal to level 43 and start the battle. Sabrina's 4 Pokemon are all really weak physically, which means that this is less of a battle and more of a 4-drill-peck sweep, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on this one. You can clearly see that Oatmeal simply one-shots all of them before they even really get a chance to take in their surroundings. Easy battle, easy badge. Next up is Blaine, so after I tear through the Pokemon Mansion and demonstrate my Pokemon knowledge in the gym's quiz, he's our target. I lead with Bagel the Gyarados, and Blaine sends out Growlithe. We trade Intimidates, and then Surf one-shots Growlithe. We do the same thing to Ponyta and Rapidash, minus the Intimidate, so Blaine very quickly finds himself with just his Arcanine left. Surf takes Arcanine to just above red health, letting him retaliate with Takedown, but it does surprisingly little damage. Blaine heals on the next turn, so we enter into a cycle of Surfs and heals before we're finally able to take Arcanine down. There's nothing stopping us on this late-game gauntlet, so I head straight to Viridian for the final gym. Bagel leads the team again for this one, and Giovanni leads his first Rhyhorn. Surf one-shots it, the second Rhyhorn, and his Dug Trio in quick succession, leaving him with Nidoqueen and Nidoking. Nidoqueen's out first and survives Surf with just a sliver. That lets her retaliate and hit Bagel with a Body Slam. It does middling damage, but, of course, paralyzes. That means we don't outspeed anymore, but Giovanni just heals. That lets us high roll on the next turn to one-shot. Nidoking is out last and hits a pretty pathetic Thrash. We don't get fully paralyzed, so Bagel's able to one-shot and win the badge. Last up on our boss rush is the final rival fight before the Elite Four. Ground leads with Pidgeot, and I send out Sausage. We trade wing attacks on the first turn, and then Sausage outspeeds to finish Pidgeot with an Ancient Power. Even though it gets us an Omni Boost, Ground sends out Blastoise, so I have to switch. I bring in Bagel as Ground sets up the Rain, so I go for a Return next as Blastoise hits Bite. After that, Bagel tanks a couple more bites as we set up with Dragon Dance, and then nail Blastoise hard with a second Return. He lives with just a bit of HP, so one more return gets us the KO. Next up are Rhyhorn and Growlithe, but they go down to 1 Surf apiece. After that is Execute, who takes a bite moderately well before missing a Stun Spore. One more bite finishes it off, so I keep Bagel out as Alakazam comes out. We outspeed to one-shot with Return, winning our last major challenge before the Pokemon League. Now that we're finished with that fight, I quickly make my way through Victory Road, and now there's just one more stop. While I travel, let's talk about our next big challenge. The first member of the Elite Four, Lorelei, is one of the biggest threats due to her type specialty, Ice. All of my Pokemon, except for Bagel, are going to take super effective damage from her Stab Ice moves, so we can't really deal with them unless we can outspeed in one shot. However, that's going to be tricky, since we don't have a reliable way to do that. Except, we do. You see, almost all of her Pokemon have a secondary water typing. In fact, her Slowbro isn't even an Ice type. By targeting that type's weaknesses instead, we have a much better chance of taking her down. The best chance we have of beating her is Thunderbolt into her water types, and at the moment, our best Pokemon for that is going to be Waffle the Dragonite. However, if we don't one-shot, her quad weakness to Ice will almost certainly result in her demise, so I don't want to take that gamble. Dragonite is strong, but not having Stab on Thunderbolt puts Waffle at a massive disadvantage. Luckily, I have a solution, because there's one more encounter that we can get to address this issue. I head to the power plant, pop a few repels, and make my way to the end of the building. You see, most people will prohibit the use of legendaries in their Nuzlocke runs for the sake of added challenge. I am not one of those people. And so, one Master Ball later, Frittata the Zapdos joins the team, rounding out our final lineup. I get the team leveled to 60, matching Lance's Dragonite, and then we're just about ready to start. Here's our final team, their stats, and their moves. All told, things are looking good. We picked up a ton of power in the back half of the game, so we're not short on offensive potential. I am a little nervous about our lack of super effective damage on a lot of opponents though. I'm particularly concerned about Agatha's ghost types, but there's not much I can do about it. The run either dies here and I've wasted the past few months, or we go out as champions. Let's begin. Lorelei leads with her Dugong, and I send out Frittata. We outspeed to one-shot with Thunderbolt, and do the same to Slowbro right after. Lapras, however, is where things go horribly wrong. We barely miss out on the one-shot, and Lapras responds with a critical hit Ice Beam that also gets a freeze on poor Frittata. A held Asperry Berry cures the freeze, but does nothing for our HP. We're able to finish Lapras on the next turn, but Jinx is out next, and I immediately know what I need to do. I bring in Bacon, who immediately goes down to an Ice Punch. I could have brought in Bagel, who would take neutral damage, but I didn't want to risk the freeze. Sacking Bacon lets me bring in Sausage, who's able to one-shot with Ancient Power. Last up is Cloyster, who protects on the first turn. On the next turn, we bring Cloyster to half with another Ancient Power as she just sets up with Spikes, and then we finished off with a final Ancient Power. Losing Bacon is tough, but there's no time to mourn. Next up is Bruno, and I lead with Bagel into his first Onix. We outspeed to one-shot with Surf, so Bruno brings in his Hitmonchan next. I switch to Waffle, who tanks a Rock Tomb on the switch. The damage isn't too bad, but we lose speed from the hit. We still manage to outspeed on the next turn to one-shot with Wing Attack, but Bruno sends out his Machamp next. He outspeeds to set up with Bulk Up as Waffle does good damage with Wing Attack, but his held Citrus Berry keeps us from a two-shot. He misses a Cross Chop on the next turn as we send Machamp deep into the red, so I decide to use Thunder Wave as Bruno heals. That gives us the speed advantage, so I have Waffle slap her opponent again with Wing Attack. It does what looks like exactly half of Machamp's health as he just gets fully paralyzed, so I decide to have Waffle go for Dragon Claw to avoid a low roll on damage. Unfortunately, that ends up missing out on the finish, so we take a nasty Rock Tomb in return. Bruno elects not to heal though, so we're able to clutch out this matchup. Hitmonlee comes out next, so I bring in Oatmeal on a Mega Kick. We tank it well, retaliating with a Drill Peck to one-shot. Last is Bruno's second Onix, so it's back over to Bagel on a Double Edge. Onix just tickles Bagel thanks to Intimidate, so a final Surf from Bagel finishes the battle. Third is Agatha. I lead with Frittata into her first Gengar. We take it to yellow health off of a Thunderbolt, and Gengar uses Double Team. I immediately kick myself for not teaching Frittata Shockwave as we miss our next two Thunderbolts, but we eventually finish the annoying Ghost off. Next is her Golbat, who we outspeed in one shot. Third out is her Arbok, so I switch to Sausage on a resisted Sludge Bomb. On the next turn, we take a Screech as Sausage sends Arbok to 1 HP with Earthquake. Agatha heals, so I go for Ancient Power, looking for some chip damage and an Omni Boost. I only get one of those, so I just hit another Earthquake to finish it. After that, Agatha brings in Haunter. It misses Hypnosis after tanking an Ancient Power, so we just hit it again to finish it off. Last up is Agatha's other Gengar, who takes an Ancient Power pretty well. It retaliates with a Shadow Ball, and I feel fine until I realize that Sausage's health doesn't stop dropping. My trademark bad luck decided to wait until the Elite Four to appear, as a critical hit snipes Sausage to take him down far too early. Frittata comes in to avenge their fainted fossil friend, and I weep internally. Last up is Lance. He leads with Gyarados, so I lead with Frittata. We outspeed to one-shot with Thunderbolt, so Lance brings in his Aerodactyl next. He outspeeds to nail an Ancient Power, and if I had a nickel for every time Frittata barely survived a critical hit in this run, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's really stressing me out. Anyway, we retaliate to one-shot with Thunderbolt, so I switch in Waffle as Lance's first Dragonair comes in. We tank an Outrage on the switch, which sucks, but we one-shot with a Dragon Claw on the next turn. Waffle does the same thing to Lance's second Dragonair, so she's left staring down his Dragonite in a mirror match. We outspeed to nail an Ice Beam, but we barely missed out on the one-shot. That means Waffle's tenure on the team has come to an end, as Outrage cleanly takes her down. I bring in Oatmeal as the Citrus Berry takes Dragonite out of healing range, and we finished off with a Fly, winning the battle. With 3 Pokemon left, we limp into the Champions Room, but we're still looking okay-ish. The remaining teammates are 3 of our heaviest hitters, so all is not lost. Ground leads with his Pidgeot, and I lead with Frittata. Naturally, we outspeed in one-shot, so Rhydon is out next. I bring Bagel in on a Scary Face and one-shot with Surf, so Alakazam is third out. We don't outspeed, taking a hefty hit from Psychic before hitting much harder with Return. Ground heals, so I decide to use Dragon Dance, ensuring that our next return will one-shot. We have to take another Psychic, but after that, we do one-shot. That brings Executor out fourth, so I switch in Oatmeal on a Giga Drain. We take him low with a Drill Peck on the next turn, before getting smacked hard with an Egg Bomb. Ground heals, so I use Fly, expecting the extra power to give us a one-shot. Surprisingly, it doesn't, so we have to take another Egg Bomb before we can finish him off. Fifth out is Arcanine, so I make the tough call to sack Oatmeal so I can safely bring Bagel in. We fire off one last Drill Peck before Bagel enters the fray, who barely misses out on the KO with Surf. We take a Flamethrower in return, but survive with just 11 HP. I'm amazed by Bagel's resilience, but it's short-lived. A bit more of the old Admiral luck ensures that Flamethrower's 10% chance to burn kicks in, taking Bagel down. As Ground heals, Frittata comes in to nail a Thunderbolt for about half of Arcanine's HP. Another finishes it off, so it's a 1v1 for the Champions title. Frittata faces down Blastoise and outspeeds to take him to red health with a Thunderbolt. It gets the paralysis too, but it doesn't matter as Blastoise just sets up the raid. A Citrus Berry pulls him out of healing range, so one more Thunderbolt is enough to win the run by the absolute slimmest of margins. And now, all that's left is for me and Frittata to drag the cold, dead bodies of our teammates into the Hall of Fame. While the credits roll, I'll give you guys my closing thoughts. I feel like I joke a lot about my bad luck during these playthroughs, but I've never been hit so hard in one part of a game quite like that Elite Four run. I honestly thought we'd breeze through it, but we just couldn't catch a break. Between all the crits leaving Frittata out of commission and the unfortunate damage rolls, this was unreasonably hard. And I don't think I've ever been angrier at a Pokemon game than I was watching Bagel go down. But yeah, that's the Nuzlocke for you. And thinking about it, that was actually a hardcore Nuzlocke too. I never used items in battle or passed the gym level caps, which wasn't something I'd actually planned to do. For the sake of transparency, I had fully intended to break the hardcore rules at some point when I really needed to, but there was never an occasion for it. The Elite Four might have needed it, but that was more one-shot or get one-shot, so there weren't any opportunities. In case anyone's wondering, the reason I don't like Nuzlocking is because it just stresses me out at the start and end of the run. The beginning is stressful because you can lose the run before you even get to start, and the end sucks because you might wipe and end up having spent all of that time for nothing. The middle is just kind of boring. That weird mix of boredom and stress is what turned me off from the Nuzlocke. Add in the distraction of a couple of Persona 5 Royal playthroughs and Baldur's Gate 3. By the way, I need Shadowheart cosplayers in my DMs expeditiously. And you have a video that took more than a few months to produce. But for now, I wash my hands of Nuzlocking and can look to the future of my content. I already know that my next video will be a return to Platinum so I can beat it for the first time completely normally. After that, I'll finally sit down and make that video breaking down EVs, IVs, and Natures for you guys. I also have a new challenge run I want to pursue, and after that I assume I'll head back to Pokemon X. I'm also thinking about making non-Pokemon content, so I hope you'll be excited for that. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like it and subscribe to the channel. And please remember to comment. Your feedback keeps me informed on what you all like and what I can improve on. Just please don't request any more Nuzlockes. One was enough, and I'd much rather just watch other people do them. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.